Welcome to this week's episode of Sports Guys Iowa. I'm Dr. Chris Bowser, and today we have a special guest, an Iowa high school girls basketball legend, a state champion as a player, a national champion as an assistant coach, and someone who truly lives and breathes the game of basketball, Chloe Rice. Coach Rice, thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to talk to you about your basketball journey, your Final Four experiences, and most importantly, maybe how we can grow the sport of girls basketball in the state of Iowa.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you guys.
You bet. So let's start at the beginning, Coach Rice. You had an incredible high school career at Marion High School, 4-year state tournament appearances, runner-up junior year, then state champion your senior year. When you think back on those years, what moments stand out the most, and how did Iowa high school girls basketball kind of shape your path?
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have a super good high school experience. We had a great group of girls, group of families that made it pretty easy for us to kind of follow our dreams and what we really wanted. And it was a pretty unique experience. We got started young and it just worked out how we wanted it to for the most part.
And that goes beyond girls or high school basketball too, because I think you had a lot of the same teammates that played travel basketball with you too. So can you
Mm.
talk about maybe life outside of high school basketball, and what were you doing in technically quote the off season for Iowa high school girls basketball? What were you guys doing in the off season as a travel team?
Yeah, we were really involved with AU. Started on the lower level end, just like local stuff when we were young. And then it became something that we really got into and really enjoyed doing. So we started spending more time on it, whether it was traveling or stuff like that, going to bigger tournaments and stuff, just to kind of see where we landed with other great teams. And that helped us a lot for the high school season as well.
One of the things I think that not people talk about as you're traveling, especially as you start to travel to some of those bigger tournaments out of state, you start to see some other elite players, right? Some
Mhm.
players that are destined for Division One, so that when you get into Division One, there's a lot of familiarity with people that you've played all over the country in high school. Can you talk about that as you experienced that in high school, and then maybe some of the student athletes you saw when you played at SLU and Bradley?
For sure. Yeah, that was super cool. And it helped us in the high school season too. We'd meet up with other families, other teams, playing against them in AAU and trying to schedule them for the high school season. We got to do that my senior year. That was pretty cool. But like you said, just developing relationships with people at that point, and there's still people I talk to, people I connect with now that I'm done playing as well that are still involved in college athletics.
I think that's one of the things that's maybe an underrated thing about being a student athlete is the networking and the network that you start to build. And it sounds like you started to build that at a pretty young age. Is there anybody in particular? Hey, you're like, I met this person playing AU basketball and now they're coaching at XYZ school. Is there anybody that you can put on that roadmap?
Oh geez, there's so many. I guess the most recent one I can think of, she was in our AU club. She was a year or two younger than me, Sam Wall, Iowa high school girls player, who's now a grad assistant at Colorado State, who's in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
So I just saw her a couple weeks ago. That was pretty cool.
John and I have actually talked about doing an episode of just Iowa high school people and where they're at in college and professional basketball. We think that'd be a fun episode. Talk a little bit about playing in the Iowa high school girls basketball state tournament. You did it 4 times. What was the atmosphere like? Sometimes people go as a freshman and they're like, I'll get back here 3 more years, but they don't. Maybe that's their only experience. And so talk about what it was like to be a mainstay at the Casey Center in Des Moines.
The Casey Center, that's weird.
It is weird.
Wasn't it called the Wilson?
It's the well, it's the weather ever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool. It's one of those things where when I was in elementary and middle school, my dad used to take me to watch the games, even though we didn't have a real connection. It's just we both knew it's somewhere I wanted to be later on. So just to see that, to give me a visual of what it looked like was super cool. And then being a part of it, it was just a fun time. It's something we had looked forward to, even outside of basketball, being able to travel as a group. We didn't get to do that a lot, I guess, within our conference overnights. It felt like we were in college traveling like that and doing a tournament. So that was really cool.
Pretty cool. Transition to college a little bit for us as a player. You started your college career at St. Louis University and then transferred and finished your career out at Bradley. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey and the original decision to go to SLU, maybe good and bad at SLU, and then transferring to Bradley, and how you ended up your career as a Bradley Brave?
Yeah, I had a good recruiting experience with SLU, and we had a really good class my freshman year. It was 5 of us. It was unique experience. We were all, I think it was surrounding the St. Louis area. We had some from Iowa, some from Kansas City, Chicago, Louisville. It was a cool class to be a part of. And the college landscape, no matter the sport, it's constantly changing. So a bunch of people are in and out. I just felt like I was ready for a change and then had a great experience at Bradley as well.
That's awesome. And you go to a place like SLU, and it is in the Midwest, but they play in the Atlantic 10 Conference. And so, can you talk a little bit about what travel was like as a student athlete to go all the way out to the East Coast for a lot of your conference games?
Yeah, that was one of the things I really liked during the recruiting process too. I was looking forward to get to travel the East Coast, seeing all those cities. I still talk about one of my favorite trips was going to Rhode Island. And then my younger sister played at SLU as well. So she got to experience all those, and being able to talk about that with her was awesome as well.
That's pretty cool. So then your journey takes you to the University of South Carolina as a graduate assistant, and becoming the first graduate assistant under legendary coach and Coach Don Staley. That's an amazing place to start your coaching career. Talk a little bit about what the transition was like from a player to an assistant coach.
I really had no idea what to expect, to be honest with you. I just knew I wanted to stay in basketball, and I had a unique connection between Bradley and South Carolina. My head coach at Bradley played for Coach Boyer, who's the associate head coach at South Carolina. So that was really the only reason I had any sort of connection there. So I got super lucky on that. But then they were really helpful in just allowing me to figure out what I wanted to do, whether it was helping out with basketball stuff on the court or in the film room, or just like behind the scenes with the coaches, just watching them, just stuff like that. They were super helpful.
So you were a part of multiple Final Four teams and a national championship as a Gamecock. What have you taken with you to your next location from being inside a championship culture on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, just seeing their, like you said, day to day basis, seeing their work ethic throughout the year, whether it's in season or out of season, especially somewhere where that's the standard. The Final Four is the standard. That was super cool to be a part of. And it gives me something, somewhat of a perspective to see if that's something I want to attempt to follow in the future.
Now you've transitioned to Grand Canyon University. We've talked about that in the Mountain West Conference. And so talk to us about how that transition is going for you. What are you most excited about at your new institution?
Yeah, it's been super great here as well. I don't know if you mentioned Coach Winston Gandy. He was the connect from South Carolina to here, so it just felt like that's a change that made sense for me. I'm doing a lot of the operations stuff in this role, which was new for me as well, but it's cool to get to see like behind the scenes, some of the business side of athletics, and the team in general was cool.
Definitely. One of the things that I think is maybe a fun or untold story. You're an Iowa high school basketball player. You grew up in the state of Iowa, and the University of Iowa women's basketball team played South Carolina back-to-back Final Fours. And so, you, as an Iowa native, sitting on the South Carolina bench, and then your future father-in-law, Rob Brooks, is calling the Iowa games for the women on the radio. And so, your fiance Blair is a part of South Carolina athletics as well. So we have to ask, can you tell us a little bit about that story, and what are the dinner time conversations like while that's going on?
Yeah, it's funny. That whole year leading up to it, before we even played each other, Blair and I are sitting there. There's no way, right? There's no way we'll end up playing each other. Having family on both sides is there's a pretty small chance of that. So I was like, it's not gonna happen, like whatever. But when we got there, it was pretty special. We had a lot of family from both of our sides come and join us, hang out with us, and be a part of it. That was really cool.
Chloe. The Brooks family is Hawkeye royalty. You ended up beating them in the national title game. You got a national title ring out of that. How's it been at Thanksgiving since? That's what we really want to know.
One of the great things about him and about their family, they just like sports, period. So they were able to appreciate just how special it is that we both ended up there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So one of the big reasons that we wanted to have you on today, Coach Rice, is because participation numbers in Iowa high school girls basketball have started to decline in recent years. Iowa has historically been the epicenter of girls basketball support in the country. The big question is, how do we get the next generation of high school basketball players engaged, maybe as youth basketball players, to get those participation numbers growing again? At the youth level, maybe, what do you think keeps girls playing the game, and what sometimes causes them to leave the game? Maybe even what can coaches, parents, people like Sports Guys Iowa, what can we do to help promote the game and get more girls interested in participating and continuing to participate through their high school days and maybe into college?
Yeah, I think you said it. It starts at a young age. I remember when I was in elementary or middle school, I had a unique experience where they let me be a part of it. They let not just myself, but like a group of us be a part of it, whether it was helping with warm ups or being a water girl or doing stats, like stats on the bench, that type of stuff just made us feel like we were a part of it and gave us something to look forward to. And then we got pretty lucky where we had some really great groups ahead of us that kind of set the example and set the standard. People that went on to play college athletics, whether it was basketball or not. And then from my own experience and just seeing how other girls go from high school to college, I think it becomes harder when people have to choose between sports. So promoting or helping people stay multi-sport athletes is super helpful as well.
I couldn't agree more. I think being a multi-sport athlete is something that is declining these days. And there's a lot of people in students' ears that they have to specialize, right? That you have to
Mhm.
play your sport all year round. And while you should stay active all year round, I think that there's a lot of evidence actually that would support multi-sport athletes, because maybe if you're a volleyball player and all you're doing is swinging that right arm all year long, sometimes it's good to play basketball too, or soccer or something else, so that you're not continuing to use that same muscle structure all day long, all year long. So it's nice to have times off. I do think that we are seeing volleyball and softball continue to grow in popularity. We also have the addition of women's wrestling in the state of Iowa. But I think what students maybe are drawn to are atmosphere, celebrations, fast paced, strong media presence. What ideas do you think could bring that same energy to women's basketball?
Yeah, you mentioned kind of part of it too. Social media is a huge deal, even if it's something where in college I can think of all these people that start their own platforms and just start promoting the team where they're on campus. So same thing with high schoolers, just starting that way on their own.
I think some of the things that we've talked about also are expanding opportunities for more games or early season showcase events. Iowa currently restricts the number of varsity games a student can play in a year to 21. And some of the neighboring states are 26 games, for example. And I'm living right now in the state of Missouri. And one of the things that we see are holiday tournaments. And sometimes the holiday tournaments are in state, but sometimes they're out of state. Talk a little bit about, you're a part of coaching staffs and you talk to coaches every day, right? That are traveling to see quality competition in maybe holiday tournaments, preseason. I know a couple of tournaments that have happened in Iowa this year, like crossover tournaments where people from the west side of the state play teams from the east side of the state. Can you talk a little bit about maybe expanding opportunities for more games for some of these student athletes?
Yeah, holiday tournaments are huge just because that's the only time college coaches can get out and recruit, really.
Yep.
Uh, that would be a big thing. I know we didn't really get to do that in high school, but now that I'm on the other side of it, seeing, oh, wow, I didn't realize all these high schools were doing all this when it isn't necessarily just you. Yeah, that's a huge deal.
I think so too. And I was a Division III and an NAIA coach, and obviously I grew up in Iowa too. And my first year as an assistant coach at Rockford College, my coach has handed me this list of all these holiday tournaments in the Chicagoland area to go look at. And I'm like, wait a minute, these kids are playing basketball over Christmas
Yeah.
break? And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, Iowa's one of the only states that doesn't do it. And then when I moved to Missouri and worked at Missouri State University, we actually hosted one of the larger holiday tournaments on campus called the Pink and White. And that tournament started the day after Christmas and ran through New Year's. And it was 16 teams. And it was just so much fun to see these teams, high schools from all over the state of Missouri, and sometimes Northwest Arkansas and Southwest Kansas come in and compete. And I actually think that the Iowa high school girls basketball student athletes could benefit from maybe some increased participation, maybe for the opportunity for preseason, in season, holiday tournaments. One of the other topics that we talked about too is the ability to pair or partner really quality teams from different parts of the state in events like the Crossover Classic.
Chris, I would add on the crossover classic, the boys are doing it in the state a fair amount. They've been able to partner with people like Midwest Sports Plus to do the games. The girls right now aren't doing that. And I think that crossover classic, like the one on Council Bluffs, where the best teams come in from Nebraska on MLK Day and they play the best teams in Iowa, I think more of that is needed. Being more unique about how you bring the game to more people. 21 games, it's just short of what other states are doing. And one way to change that is to come up with unique ways to promote the sport. Why don't we have a Chick-fil-A tip-off classic? We should in the state. This state loves girls basketball.
They love Chick-fil-A too, John.
They do.
One of the next ideas that I think is really interesting is having JV or even middle school postseason opportunities to get student athletes at a very young age or a little below the varsity level, right, to have the opportunity to play in tournament play. And Coach Rice, whether it be high school and getting into district, sub-state, and state tournament play, at the college level, playing in the NCAA tournament, postseason play is elevated. And giving younger student athletes and developmental student athletes the opportunity to compete in those types of events, I think is great for development.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to elevating the game, I think I remember my senior year and we still had the same limit of 21 games. It was a big deal that we scheduled a game with Indianola, who was outside of the metro area, outside of our conference. That was the first time our high school got to do something like that. And they were a really good team at the time too. They had several girls go on to play Division I in basketball or other sports as well. So that helped us because that was a team that was at our level too. It's just even more competition.
Well, I think so too. And if we're looking at this as a state developmental topic, right? Iron sharpens iron. The more quality teams you play, the better it is for the student athlete. And I think there's always great learning opportunity in those games where you're playing equal or even maybe sometimes better talent than you would normally play.
Chloe, you mentioned earlier about upping the social media game. Young athletes, right? I think one of the big appeals for volleyball and softball is, hey, it's fun. The game stops. There's a lot of cheering. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of girls that get rotated through. But I also think the social media game, the reality of it is that's how you reach kids. That's how you get them excited. I think upping the social media game for promotion of the sport, the girls union, everyone, I think it would highly benefit girls basketball in the state.
Yeah, for sure. It's just another example of giving younger girls an example of what to look at, where they want to be, gives them something to shoot for.
I think those growth opportunities, Chloe, you talked about being like the stats person or right or stuff. Those are things I did too when I was a young kid. And if there are younger student athletes that are out there in middle school right now looking for ways that they can get involved and maybe even have a little bit more fun, reach out to your high school coach.
For
See
sure.
if you can come be a part of a game night as somebody that's doing stats or taking video. Just get involved in any way that you can. I think is a great way to do that. And if you're passionate and you're a geek about your sport, then you want to be a geek about it all the time. I think that one of the things that we haven't talked about, we didn't really put up on our graphic though, is in the smaller communities in Iowa. There's so much connection. I went to North Scott High School and the players, boys and girls players, would do clinics on Saturday mornings for all the youth players. And so if that has maybe gone away in some of the smaller communities, that could be a way to get more of the youth players to look up to those local high school student athletes.
Yeah, for sure. I remember being involved in summer camps and everything, but doing camps or clinics throughout the whole year would be another great tool.
Chloe, before we let you go, what message would you give to young girls in Iowa right now who are maybe just starting their basketball journey?
Just have fun with it. It's a really great sport in terms of bringing people together. Just make it fun. That'll make it fun.
That's awesome. So I always have one other question for coaches. If I'm going to come to a Grand Canyon game and you're going to send me somewhere where I need to go pregame, so somewhere where I can get a great meal, maybe a great beverage, where would I go if I'm going to come to a Grand Canyon home game?
The one off the top of my head might be just because I was there the other night is Taco Boys.
All right.
And taco places here in Phoenix. So that would be a solid one to check out.
What's your go-to meal at Taco Boys?
Just the steak tacos.
That sounds really good. It sounds really good. I'm sold already. Hey, Coach Rice, Iowa State champion, Final Four coach, national champion, and someone leading the future of the game. Chloe, thanks so much for joining us on Sports Guys Iowa today.
Yep.
Thank you,
Hey,
guys.
Chloe, thanks for joining us. You're probably like super excited about joining us because You've met the President of the United States when you won the national title at South Carolina, and that has to be close, doesn't it, Chris?
Yeah,
It's got to be close.
Be on a call with us and say hello to Blair for us. A shout out to Blair. Blair is a professional long jumper, Chris, and
That's awesome.
he's in the top 5 in the U.S. right now. So we may see him at the Drake Relays again. We hope.
Yeah.
We hope.
And Coach Rice, we have a family connection, but I went to college with your dad.
Yeah.
I was a manager at Northern Iowa on the team that your dad played on. And he's one of my favorite people. He was such a great person to be around in college, and to see how hard he worked both on and off the court. And then fast forward 20 years later or more, I'm walking into a high school game in Marion, Iowa, because somebody told me I needed to go look at this kid named Ty Gunderson for my AU team. And the first person I walk into the gym I see is Sean Rice. And he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to go watch this kid named Ty Gunderson play." And he goes, "Yeah, that's my nephew." And
I
I
didn't know that.
immediately knew that Ty would be somebody that I liked because of your dad. And the basketball world is a tight-knit community. And so your comments about networking and developing your network and developing your group of people, it really resonates with me. I'm like, but your dad's somebody that if I needed something tomorrow, I could probably pick up the phone and call and ask him. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, Chloe, thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it. Now go to UNLV this weekend and get a win.
For sure. Thank you guys. Really.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, guys.